5 men walked into a store at closing time. One teenage girl was inside, and not a single one of those 5 men knew what was sitting in the back room waiting for them. This is the story of the worst decision 5 people ever made, and the 12 men who made sure they never forgot it. Here's what nobody talks about when they share the story online. It's not just about the bikers. It's not just about the girl. It's about one broken lock, one ignored maintenance request, and how a tiny thing that management kept putting off almost destroyed a young girl's life until 12 strangers decided her safety was worth more than their coffee getting cold. Stay with me, because the moment those boots hit the floor is something you are going to remember for a long time. Sarah was 19 years old. She had been on her feet for 10 hours straight. The kind of shift where your shoes feel like they're made of concrete and your brain is basically clocked out 2 hours before your body does. She worked the closing shift at a small convenience store, just outside of town and not a big chain. Not a busy location, just a quiet little store where not much ever happened. She had closed up dozens of times before. Lock the door, count the register, wipe down the counters, turn off the lights, go home. Simple, routine, safe. Except tonight's, the moment she touched the lock, one of the men knocked on the glass. She shook her head, pointed to the sign. Closed, she mouthed. He knocked again, louder. And then 2 more men appeared behind him. Then a 4th. Then a 5th. 5 men now crowded right up against the door. One of them grabbed the handle and started pulling, not asking, not waiting, just pulling. Like the door was something they were going to take whether she liked it or not. Sarah backed away toward the counter. Her phone was right there. She needed to call someone. She needed to reach it. She didn't make it in time. The door swung open. Now here is the part that still makes people angry when they hear it. That lock had been broken for 2 weeks. Sarah had reported it to management at least 3 times. She had written it in the maintenance log. She had sent a text to her supervisor. Every single time the answer was the same. We'll get to it. Don't worry about it, it's fine. It was not fine. The 5 men walked in slowly. No rush, no panic. They had clearly decided before they even stepped out of that car how this was going to go. The one at the front, the clear leader of the group, looked at Sarah behind the counter. No big speech. No explanation. He just said one word. Register. Flat voice, cold eyes. Said it the same way you'd ask someone what time it is. Like it was already a done deal. Like Sarah had no choice and they both knew it. Sarah's mouth opened. Nothing came out. She was shaking. She was alone. Or at least, that's what she thought. We're not going to ask again, the man said, taking one slow step toward her. And then a chair scraped the floor. One chair, then another, then another, then 4 more, then the sound of boots, heavy, steady boots, hitting tile one after another, coming from somewhere behind the shelving units at the back of the store, from the little seating area near the hot food counter, the one you can't even see from the front of the store. 12 men stood up. Let me paint this picture for you properly. These were not small men. These were not young guys trying to look tough. These were grown, broad, serious men in black, leather jackets with a motorcycle club patch stitched onto the back. The Iron Brotherhood. MC, a riding club that had been passing through town that evening. Stopped in for food and coffee a couple of hours earlier. Paid their bill, tipped well, and never left. Sarah had served them herself. At some point she had stopped hearing them and assumed they had gone. They had not gone. They had just been sitting quietly in the back, minding their business, until the moment someone else's business became impossible to ignore. Their leader was a man named Garrett. Silver hair, big hands, the kind of man who doesn't need to raise his voice because the way he carries himself already says everything. He stood up, walked slowly to the front of his group, and stopped. He looked at the 5 men near the register. He didn't say a word. He didn't point. He didn't threaten. He just stood there, and with 11 men behind him, and he let the silence do the talking. 4 seconds. That's how long it lasted. 4 seconds of the heaviest silence you can imagine, the kind of silence that sits on your chest. The man who had said, "We're not going to ask again," looked at Garrett. Then he looked at the wall of leather jackets behind Garrett. Then he looked at the door. And just like that, every bit of confidence he had walked in with fell straight off his face. We were just leaving, he said. Garrett looked at him. Calm as anything. I know, he said. That was it. 2 words. And those 5 men left so fast they practically tripped over each other. Getting to the door. No arguments. No attitude. Just gone. Tires screaming out of the parking lot. Engine noise fading down the road and then silence. Sarah sat down on the floor behind the counter. Right there between the cigarette shelf and the lottery scratch cards. She pressed her hands over her face and just sat, not crying exactly, just her body finally letting go of the fear it had been holding for the last 10 minutes. Garrett walked over to the counter. He stayed on his side, gave her space, didn't crowd her, didn't make her feel like she had to say anything. You okay? He asked. She nodded. She was not okay, but she nodded. We'll stay until you're done closing up, he said. She looked up at him. You don't have to do that. We know, he said, and he went back to his table, poured himself another coffee and sat back down. That right there, that small moment. That is the part of the story that breaks people open every single time they hear it. He didn't want to thank you. He didn't want recognition. He didn't pull out his phone. He just topped up his coffee and sat back down like it was the most normal thing in the world. Because to him it was. All 12 of them stayed for 45 minutes, while Sarah counted the register and wiped down the counters and finished every last thing on her closing checklist. Those 12 men sat in the back of that store, drinking gas station coffee, without a single complaint. And when she finally locked up and walked out to the parking lot, they were already there, standing in a half circle around her car, not aggressive, not dramatic, just present, watching the shadows, watching the road, making sure she got in safe. She drove home and cried the whole way, not because she was scared anymore, because she hadn't known. She hadn't known that people like this still existed in the world. People who stay, people who protect someone they've never met and then ask for absolutely nothing in return. She posted about it the next day. Within 48 hours, it had spread across multiple states. Thousands of shares, thousands of comments. People saying it gave them hope. People saying they needed to hear something like this. News crews tracked down Garrett outside a diner a few days later and asked him one question. Why did you stay? He looked at them like the question barely made sense. She was alone, he said. What else were we going to do? And he got on his bike and rode away. There are people in this world who look for a reason to help, and there are people who look for a reason not to. Garrett and his crew didn't need a reason. They just needed to see that someone needed help.